Simon's Universal Music. Today is absolutely a mega incredible episode. We're talking about Be Here Now. It's 25 years old, which is a bit crazy, but it's coming back out. It's an amazing album, but not just that. I'm here with Nick, who was there, and we've talked before, so here we go. With this album that came out in 1997, obviously they've done the second album. They done obviously the biggest shows in the world. They were touring in America and it all went tits up. But when was the time period where, like, the first time period they went in to start making all of that?
The first time we went in the studio for that was September the year before.
Right.
It was in the September. I mean, the plan was we go to Abbey Road up until Christmas. Kind of 6 weeks, get majority of the tracking done, and then kind of overdubs in the new year. But so I went up to London, drove up with Owen. Owen drove up, and the album started with a massive party in the crew hotel. Yeah. And that was the first of many. And that's how it carried on. Kind of the mayhem of that night was kind of pretty insane, but it was pretty tame from what was to come after that.
Yeah. Because I suppose it was right in the middle of chaos.
Yeah. The biggest band in the world at the time, the press intrusion, the fans everywhere, it was just insane. And obviously all the kind of people who were hanging out with the band and coming and going. And the main kind of pain in the arse was the press intrusion, really constant for them guys. I mean, just full on, non-stop.
Yeah. Because I suppose that the thing that I love about this, Nick, with that band and why they're my favourite band in their entire universe is my age and time period, And when you talk about, like, the parties and when it was all starting, I suppose, Nick, as well, they would have been really in the clique of having the celebrity mates.
Yeah.
Everyone
right at the height of it.
Yeah. How many parties would you say you was at where you were starstruck by people turning up?
I kind of wouldn't say starstruck, because I was already pretty used to bumping into kind of all sorts, really, from Rockfield, obviously. And to me, like, I've known Oasis since before they were famous, so it was kind of like just hanging out with your mates, really. So and there to do a job, but it was more like, oh, so and so's here today. Oh, look, so and so over there. But I don't know, weekly basis. It was like the album went on for like 7 months. So yeah, I mean, every week there was something going on. Celebrities there, whether it was musicians or actors or TV people. It was constant.
Yeah, when all this was happening, obviously I was in high school at the time, right? So, but I was buying like a newspaper every day on the way to school, right? Just because you wanted to see, like, everything that was going on. You just wanted to see what was happening with them.
I mean, the press were outside my apartment, or whether I was staying in the hotel, they were outside every morning. They'd ask me what's going on today, who's coming into the studio, what they're doing today, who's going to be there. Every morning that was happening. So so that, because everybody wanted to know what was happening and what was going on and who was hanging around and how the album was going and what kind of milk Liam was buying that morning. And so it was constant, but it was just I got used to it. I was only 19, so a 19-year-old being in London, being in these great studios with those guys, and the biggest band in the world, and it was kind of like, oh look, so and so's just turned up. You didn't know what was going to happen next, and nothing surprised me in the end. When woken up at 2 a.m. in the morning in my hotel room with Liam and Steve Collins, the boxer, just crashing into my bedroom. I think he just won a world title.
Oh my God!
Crashed into my hotel room for a party to celebrate.
Crazy.
Yeah, so it never surprised me really, because it was, what's happening next? Who's going to be here next? So
yeah,
steady stream of people, and we were trying to make a record while this was going on. But some great people, met some amazing people, and being that age, 19, in the thick of it, just meeting all these people, being at these kind of events and the studios as well. Just what an amazing experience, with a band who were just on, absolutely smashing it and on top of the game, and yeah, just what an experience at that age.
Totally. I mean, when I talked to you about when I was buying newspapers at that time, and obviously all the magazines like Enemy, Q, and all of that, and like obviously with TV and anything, soon as you saw, I mean, with I think like the Sun would, when the album cover got released, and they were showing you like all them, what it was going to be like, the photos and everything, and this is compared to that, and this bit's attached to like that. But what was the first thing recorded at that time period?
We were in Abbey Road. We went in and we started doing backing tracks, Magic Pie, do you know what I mean? A few of the things, Getting Better Man, kind of the more rockier tracks. That's what we kind of were starting on there as well. And just getting through the backing tracks, and we got to vocals as well, doing some vocals in Abbey Road. We didn't stay there for the 6 weeks in the end. We were only there for 2 weeks, so a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We left for various reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what, Nick, when you actually listen to that album, right, and I listened to it just before we talked, and I've been obviously listening to it the last few days, right? When you listen to that band and that sound, it was truly brilliant.
Yeah. It's an amazing sound they've got as a band anyway, but on that record, I love the sound of the record, love the songs on that album. It's there's nothing else like to compete with that at the time.
Yeah. Is there moments on that album with Liam's vocals where you think that's the best he's ever done? Or like there's moments that you will treasure forever seeing when he was singing on that album?
Yeah, there was a couple of times. I mean, I remember the first time I set up his vocal booth in Abbey Road, and then kind of it was late at night, and I can't remember which track we were doing, but I just remember that first vocal, like the anticipation of it, and him just nailing it, and that kind of sticks with you. Doing a few vocals at Air Studios, and there's loads of moments when he did it. There was moments on What's the Story, and there's moments on that album, like when he was doing All Around the World and things like that. It just kind of just really stick with me. He was on top form.
Yeah.
It just sounds amazing.
Definitely. I mean, today, there's a couple of things I've listened to today, right? The first thing I listened to when I was walking to work this morning was All Around the World, right? And just before talking to you, I listened to Don't Go Away, right? Both them tunes are amazing.
Yeah. And it's right up there on Don't Go Away, isn't it? It's just brilliant.
Yeah, when I listen to Don't Go Away today, and I think when you're doing this, you soak in so much more, right? Because when I was listening to it and Liam's vocals and his feelings at the time, you would never ever think about it. You would never even think of how he must have felt when he was singing them tunes. And then 25 years later, here we are talking about, a singer nearly in his 50s, but singing tunes on the third album, which was incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on him. There was a lot of kind of partying going on, so there was a lot of late nights and things. There's a lot of pressure. There was a lot of press intrusion. A lot going on. But he was just well up for it, and he had those amazing songs to sing. Noel writing in just the right pitch for him, and kind of the melodies just absolutely suited him down to a T where his voice was at that time.
Yeah,
all those things coming together. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And yeah, and here he is now, still singing great. Just did the 40 hours at Rockfield with him, and man, he just came in and just splits those songs. There's no overdubs. It's just casually walks in, says hello.
Yeah,
everything's set up, ready to go. He's like, "Oh, we'll have a rehearsal and then we'll do it." So it's like 2 run-throughs. And no overdubs, no fixes, nothing. It's just smashed it out. And I was like blown away by how well he's still singing, considering the way he does sing. But yeah, he was just up for it. And I think being back at Rockfield and kind of having all his family there and his mates there, and just being relaxed. But yeah, walked in and smashed it. And especially when he did, Do You Know What I Mean again, it just took me back to that room 25 years previous,
When they done that on that TV program, it was absolutely ace. When he done, do you know what I mean? When he sang that, and the sound of that song, was truly absolutely brilliant. We should come on. We'll talk about this tune, because everything about that, from the single. The artwork, him on the front cover, the band, the video.
The intro to the album, everything.
Intro to the album, even obviously, Stay Young on it, Angel Child on it, and Heroes on it, right? All of that and the video, surely that is right. Big time for British music, up there with the best. Probably the best video ever made.
The B-sides were some of the best tracks ever. Obviously, Heroes cover, but so good.
Nick, the day I brought that, was from Asda in Bromsgrove. Okay, and literally, even the build-up for days and days and days to that coming out, right? For that to be released, honestly, you get that home, you turn it right up, you put that on with the video and the look, even the look of that band at that time.
Yeah, and the whole build up to it, the whole promo campaign, everything, it was just, and then to culminate, like you say, we're putting that CD on, and looking at the cover, Brian's cover, everything, it's just so.
Yeah. I know Brian obviously has his YouTube channel and he talks about obviously the artwork and everything that goes into Oasis and this, that, and the other, but they are they're the full package.
Yeah. It's just mind blowing what was going on at that time, and music in general, but just for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and people coming together, people like Brian, and being involved. Brian was one of the few people who was around a lot. Pretty close. Part of the parties, obviously the celebrities, it was a pretty close session. There was only, me and Owen, the only people there every day. And then most days, you've got Mark Hoyle and Phil Smith, and then Brian would come in and out quite a bit. But other than that, and the security guys, it was a closed shop, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Oasis, and we'll say Liam and Noel, I think for people who are close to them, they've kept pretty tight. Like their mate Phil and Mark. And
they were there throughout the whole of that album. Brilliant to have around as well. I don't think it would have been difficult for anyone else to have been there. Like Mark obviously had an important role and Phil did as well. But great having them around.
Yeah, absolutely. And just coming back to Liam as well, Nick, I think something that works well in Liam's favour is his physique, the way he's built, his look.
Yeah.
You know, because he's pretty well built, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I think for the way that he is built and the way that he sings, when you see his neck, it looks like he's got quite a long neck. I mean, you've obviously been close to him, but from a fan's point of view, when you see him, he's just got a good physique, the way that he looks.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's very imposing that he's there, and it's just an iconic image. You know, if you see a silhouette of it, it's an iconic image. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, for the people that I've seen live and singers, let's say, I think he's the best.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, definitely up there. He's the best rock and roll singer we've had for a very, very long time, if not ever, with the amount of time he's sang at that level for as well, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, still smashing them out. Still doing great live shows. Yeah. Incredible. Is it, who else is around doing what he can do?
Absolutely. I mean, coming back to when Liam was at Rockfield and what Liam's been doing this year, I think Liam's on top at the minute between him and his brother. And I mean, I went to see him twice this summer. Okay, right. Get a load of this. So this is my opinion on what is right now. So when Liam was working with you a few weeks back, and obviously with his new album and with doing Networth and Manchester and Scotland and everything that Liam's done at the minute, it's been fantastic.
Yeah.
Amazing. Really, really seriously good.
Yeah. Really well put together, really well organized, really well managed. Yeah, just brilliant. Great
for the fans. Great. You know, Liam is spot on, right? I will say that when it comes down to the next one, I think he needs to have a bit of a slight change, maybe with people that he's working with, or have a different approach of how songs are being written, or just try and mix it up a little bit, you know?
Need to get him back to Rockfield, get him in, get him recording live, get the band in there.
Yeah.
Down there for 6 weeks. Back to the old days, you know, get him down the pub.
That would be amazing.
The proper way.
Yeah, that would be absolutely the best.
Yeah.
So with his brother, right? Now, I've got a bit of criticism here, and I like to say I'm one of his number one fans, right? But when I've seen him twice recently, 12 times High Flying Birds, okay?
Yeah.
He's got lazy with his set list, you know, he's got all this that he could do, yeah? He could mix it all up, and he doesn't. He plays the easy ride, yeah? He's rude to his fans because he's saying, oh, here's songs that you won't have heard, here's songs that you won't have heard, but then I'm going to play a load of hits. Also, he talks about people dogging and everything, yeah? And I can only go by saying, Nick, I spoke to people that were at his gigs who felt a bit like, you're taking the piss, mate, or you're being a bit rude, you know? Which I don't, he will not care what anybody says. But at the same time, doesn't matter who you are. If you've got people spending a lot of money and traveling and doing everything to see him and whatever, yeah, it's not fair. You know, it's being a bit unfair.
Yeah, I can't really comment on that because not being to any of the shows or not really talking to it, you know, the first person who's kind of brought that across to me. So not really, I mean, I love the man. I can't criticize the man whatsoever. I love the man. I think he's, you know, only got good experiences and good things to say about him. From my personal point of view, every day within, you know.
I get it. I totally get it. I mean, I've spoke to his band. I'm his fan. I've seen him 12 times. I will. When I hear people slate him, believe me, I get furious, right? But I feel I have a right, as being one of his number one fans,
to have an opinion on that, and
to just say, and I tell him to his face. If I was taught, I'd tell him to his face. So he would probably tell me to go and fuck myself, but hey,
he'd have a pretty witty comeback, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, he would. So, but I look forward to what he has coming next. I really do.
Yeah.
And we both know it will be absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
So, and I'll be going to see him. So,
of course, yeah. Genius. You know what? Yeah, we all wait for what comes next.
Yeah, but I mean, when you've got things like this, and it was coming out, and with the videos for that band and the songs and that time period of them playing live.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm a second Oasis fan, is what he could say, because the first time I saw him was standing on the shoulders at Wembley.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So I missed all pretty much the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More intimate gigs and some really shows. Yeah, I went to see one early one on that album, which was in Bath, I think. Was it the Bath Pavilion maybe, or something like that? Amazing, just hearing those, like all the hard work gone into the album, and hearing them play it live. That was the first time I saw them play the album live. Just blown away at that gig. It was an amazing gig. I'm sure there'd be people who were at that gig who will tell you the same. It was just one of those great moments in their life.
Sure. I mean, you know what? We can go on about the two brothers, but what was Guigsy, Bonehead, and Alan like?
I loved every single member of that band. I mean, Alan came in obviously for What's the Story, and was kind of new in this, or kind of got to know him quite well during that, because he was new to the band. So, and I didn't know the band that well at that point, although I met them before doing Definitely Maybe. But loved Alan, super professional, great drummer, just got the job done, knew what to play on the tracks, just such a lovely man. Bonehead, what can you say? Just an absolute legend.
Yeah.
Had some fondest memories on that album with Bonehead and Owen.
I bet.
Them two together. Just great times. I mean, he's a lovely man, and a really important part of that, the drive and rhythm section of that band, him, Guigsy and Alan. And Griggs, I mean, we talk for hours. Music, football, sport, just loads of common interests. Spent a lot of time with Guigsy later on, actually, years later. Built a studio together. Just what a great guy. Amazing times with him, because I recorded quite a lot of the bass with Guigsy. A lot of the times, Owen's not the fondest of bass players, so
no way.
He would say, "I'm off for a shit," or I'm off to read the newspaper or something, and then he'd come back after a little while, and that meant get the bass sorted, get it set up, get it happening, and then I'll come back. So you always had a thing for bass players. That's why you learned to play bass in the end, I think, because I was fed up recording bass players who just learned to play it himself in the end.
Yeah.
But I used to talk for hours with Griggs. Mainly football, and obviously his love of reggae and dub music and everything. So and then spent a lot more time with him than any of the others afterwards. Just great, all of them amazing. They all got the job done. They all knew what they were doing. They all great to be around. And good support for the other two, as well. Kind of. There was always someone else around, one of those three around when Liam and Noel was there, So,
Guigsy really loved his football, didn't he? Or
he
does.
I mean, and a great player as well. And when we did the Oasis match, he was a fantastic player. Liam was as well. Guigsy Especially, yeah, loved his football. We talked for hours. Obviously, he's a City fan. I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, yeah.
We'd always watch the games, and he'd always rib me about it, and I would rib him. And yeah, he wrote a great book on Robin Friday.
Right.
Little known player, played at Reading, but he wrote a book about him, the greatest player you never saw. And the bizarre thing, I actually bought the book for my dad recently because it's one of my dad's favourite players. My dad was a footballer as well.
Right.
Played for Millwall. And he said Robin Friday was the greatest player he ever saw in the flesh. He was at one of the games where he just wiped the floor with the opposition, and it became legendary. And when Wiggsy mentioned this guy, I was like, yeah, I know that guy. He's like, how do you know him? It's like, one of my dad's favourite players. And he was like, I'm writing a book on him. And so knowledgeable. Cricket, really knowledgeable on all sports, but cricket and football especially.
Yeah.
And his knowledge of music as well. You know,
he really knows his stuff.
Yeah, and he became a really good kind of producer as well. We built the studio, and Pro Tools was coming in, and we kind of put Pro Tools in there, and he soon got to grips with it. But his production was good. We were working with bands, working with some reggae stuff. We did the Corner Shop. But yeah, he was really good as a producer as well.
No way. Do you think out of all the Oasis albums, Nick, like that one has the real connection with the Beatles connection out of all of them? Do you think this has a lot of influence from Fab Four, you say?
Yeah, there's loads of influence in there, isn't there? And obviously, you know, they did the Rockfield thing for What's the Story because the Roses had been there, and then their thing was like, right, we need to go to Rockfield because the Roses had been there. That's where it's at. It's what, you know, love that band. They didn't really care that Queen had been there or anything like that. It was the Roses. The Roses had been there. That was it. We need to go there. And then obviously, he used to say, right, during that album, he used to say, right, the next album we'll go to Abbey Road because we got the big budget, and we'll have the 72-piece orchestra because didn't have the budget for the 72-piece orchestra then, so we'll hold off all around the world for the third album. We'll go to Abbey Road, and it'll be all that and kind of the Beatles thing. So yeah, that was big reason for going there. We used to blast out Beatles tunes in studio too, as I'm sure most people do when they go and work there. Blasting through the tannoys into the live room, and I think and that used to just be spine tingling anyway, just hearing Beatles tracks in the studio. But to be sat with Oasis doing it was I got a walk around with a walkthrough with Sir George Martin as well, which was a bizarre story during that recording. But a walk around telling me which mics he was using, where he put John for this song, where he did the drums for that song. Just amazing. Me and Jim Carey with Sir George Martin. Have a personal tour about and talk through the Beatles records.
That is just truly icing on the cake, isn't it? So, you know, it's 1990, should we say 97? It's 97?
Yeah.
So
96.
Yeah, 1996. Yeah. So you're in the most famous recording studio in the world, with the best, pretty much the producer in the world.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest movie star at that time period.
Yeah.
Making one of the greatest albums
of all time. With the biggest band in the world.
The biggest band in the world.
At 19.
At 19.
Yeah.
God, you must be feeling pretty proud about all of that, Nick.
I know, just amazing. Yeah.
It's like a pinch yourself moment.
Yeah. But of course, you're working as well, so you're trying to remain professional, trying to do the best you can, and there's all this going on.
Yeah.
Only 19 years of age, and just pinching yourself, like, you know, definitely didn't clock watch on that job. It was like, it could have, you know, if there was more, I would have stayed up all night if I could have every day, really.
Yeah.
It was what an experience. And it was like moments in the army. My parents actually split up during the making that while we was at Abbey Road, and I can't remember. I had a good chat with Owen about it, and then we had to go in and do a vocal, and it was like this. I think it might have even been "Don't Go Away," and it was so emotional. Obviously, going through that with the thing about your parents and him singing that song.
Yeah.
got me through that moment in my life, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember the night before the BBC program. I think it was on. Well, it must have been on like 10 o'clock, 10:30, and it was on obviously the night before Be Here Now came out, where everyone in the whole country got up the crack of dawn, went to wherever they were going to obviously, you know, get this. Yeah. I was in Norwich at the time, Nick. I was staying at my nan's.
Right.
I went to Virgin Megastore by Castle Mole. You would know it. You know it.
Yeah.
I was down there, 9 o'clock. It opened. You paid your money. You know, got back the whole day listening to it. But I think what I was going to say is when I stayed watching it that night, and they done Stand By Me by the swimming pool.
Yeah.
You just knew. You just knew they are the greatest band in the world.
Yeah.
Because it was just so good.
Yeah. And then you made that collection of those first 3 albums, and that being a combination of that period and those first 3. And yeah, that from that, you just know, don't you, that that's one of the greatest bands of all time. And it's how do you compete with that? How do you beat that? You know? Amazing moments. The whole way it was put together with the videos and, like say, the anticipation from everyone, the queuing outside the record shops, those TV performances. How do you? Yeah, it's just so well put together.
Yeah,
but it needed to be, because it was deserving of that kind of epic kind of journey.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the pressure was on. The pressure was on him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
It really was.
The world, not just press, but everyone was waiting for it. The anticipation. You know, I'd kind of the time I'd seen that before was like obviously for the Second Coming, and the anticipation for that record. But that had been going on for years, and obviously the Roses were us. They were so cool about it, like just whatever, you know. But the Oasis wheels were turning so fast. It wasn't that long after What's the Story, and it was like, right, we got to do the third album. Let's go. We'll do this third album. It's got to be bigger and even better, and kind of know, everything surrounding it, the art, the artwork, the videos, the press releases. Everything has to be bigger and better. It needs to keep going like this. So yeah, but the anticipation, I was quite nervous. I was nervous at the time, you know.
But the other thing to this, right? When you look at like obviously the 12 tracks, on this, they actually got it right with the track that they used.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at every single song, it was the right songs on the album. And I don't think I've ever talked about, I must have talked about that. But like now when I talk to you and you look at them songs, they were the perfect songs for that album.
Yeah.
And the sound of them tracks is like, I've always loved track 5, I Hope I Think I Know. That has been one of my favorite Oasis. That song truly is mega.
Yeah, same.
It's mega.
Favorites. Yeah. I mean, the album kind of came together, I think, because we obviously recorded a lot more songs than those ones that ended up on the album. But the ones that were going to go on the album kind of they came together pretty quick. Which ones it was going to be, you know, it was like, that's the B-side. And they weren't B-sides because they weren't great songs, because Oasis have probably the best B-sides out of any band that's ever existed.
I've got there's obviously that and that. You know. Yeah.
But there were songs for that record that just sound like, that's great, but it's gonna a classic Oasis B-side, and then the album kind of shaped itself pretty quickly, really, of which ones were going to make it on the album. Yeah, I mean, the running order as well. There's a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of thought went into the running order, what key the songs were in, the tempos. You know, it was a lot of thought went into that, and they got the running order spot on as well. Yeah, I mean, I tell you something, with doing this, speaking to Jess and Charlotte, and I message Russ, but you never get anything out of him, right? Okay, I was like saying to Jess and Charlotte and you should get Noel to be playing Going Nowhere on his tour, because even that as a B-side track is mega.
Were you around when that was recorded?
Yeah.
Right. What was that like?
Oh, great. I mean, we did a lot. Yeah, all the B-sides were pretty much done on that whole, across those 7 months.
Right.
I'm trying to think where we did Master Rock. We went to a studio called Master Rock in Kilburn to do a lot of the B-side stuff as well.
Right.
A lot of the overdubs for those were done there. Me and Bonehead worked on some guitars there.
Right.
Hope Bonehead know what I'm talking about, but we worked on some guitars. And for a couple of B-sides.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your favourite B-side? Is that your favourite B-side off that album then?
Right, hold on a second. So, Going Nowhere, I absolutely love. I Got the Fever, I absolutely love. All Stand By Me single, all the B-sides on that. I've Got the Fever, I love. Sister Lover. Sister Lover is an amazing track.
Yeah.
You know, so that's obviously Stand By Me. Then Flashback and The Fame. The Fame, I love that. I mean, these are the sort of tracks that Noel should be playing on his next sort of tour. These kind of B-sides from this time period is what he should be smashing out. Then obviously you got Street Fighter Man on that one.
Yeah.
And obviously we know the Do You Know What I Mean single. I mean,
the list now, it's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'll tell you something. So on the Be Here Now time period, they released 3 singles. Them 3. Yeah. I think on the Standing on Shoulders time period, they only released 3 singles. Okay. They could have released more singles of the album. They could have done more.
Yeah.
They could have done 4 or 5 singles, you know, even from Morning Glory and Definitely Maybe. Yeah. They done like 4 singles.
Yeah.
You know, it's frustrating because they could do whatever they want.
Yeah. Oh, in a world like, in a music world today where it's all about singles and by artists as opposed to, it's a quick turnaround of individual songs. Imagine them like coming out now and just being able to churn out single after single after single, because they could all be singles off those first 3 albums, so they could have released more, but it was making a standout album was their goal. How do you make an album that's going to kind of last forever?
Definitely. I mean, get a load of this. You'll love this, right? So when me and Susanna went down to Bromsgrove 3 weeks ago, may have been, I can't remember what we were doing, but we went down to Bromsgrove and we went down the high street on Saturday afternoon. There's a guy selling vinyl on the high street on the market stall. Yeah. I've gone to other butchers. What's there? Be Here Now. Really? Right? Original. First print. Okay. How much do you reckon he wanted for it?
What?
150 quid.
Right.
I was like, why is that so much, man? And it's like, some chap died and that. So, they went through his bits and pieces. He gave it to us. And because of obviously the time period and with it being original, that's why I'm selling it at that price. I'm like, for fuck's sake, 100, mate, that they wanted 150 quid for that on vinyl.
Yeah.
I didn't get it because no. Obviously, the new one's coming out and everything.
And there's also a lot of them out there because they sold shitloads of them.
Yeah, but on that same day, I was like, okay, so he's selling Be Here Now for 150 quid, right?
Yeah.
And it was sort of I picked up the Imagine album, and in the Imagine album, they had this white poster, original white poster of Lennon on his piano, yeah, and a little postcard that was original, and he was selling that for 20 quid. So
right,
I got that,
yeah,
and didn't pay the 150 quid for Be Here Now. But I tell you something, man, that's just crazy.
Amazing price, isn't it? Yeah.
Amazing price, you know.
You're getting the reissue though, are you?
Yeah, definitely. It's amazing. And I suppose with, you know, my turntable that I've got, at some stage I will get them all on vinyl. Yeah. But I mean, every single time one of them or that came out on the day of release, I was there, mate. I can Heathen Chemistry, obviously Don't Believe the Truth, and obviously Dig Out Your Soul.
Yeah.
You know, all of that. But yeah, I think with this, compared to what came after this will always be special.
Yeah. It is now. I mean, talking to a mate of mine, Neil Ferry, who's got a record shop up in Newcastle. And,
really? Whereabouts?
In the arcade there. You know, in the arcade?
Yes.
Yeah. My mate Neil's got that. That's his store there.
Nick, that's where I always go to get my stuff.
Yeah.
It is now, anyway.
It's one of the best music shops in the world, isn't it? It's amazing.
I always go in there. Go in there.
Such a lovely man. And
next time I go in, I'll mention you.
Yeah, ask for Neil. Neil will be in there. He'll sort you out. And
right, okay.
I did some stuff for him for Record Store Day. I did it. We were talking about my favourite records, and I signed a few records that I'd worked on for him to give away as prize on Record Store Day.
Yeah.
You know, the queues are out the door for vinyl anyway on Record Store Day. But
yeah,
he said the Oasis vinyls are still one of the most popular. They just fly out. They sell out, whether it's their albums now or whether it's the previous albums or any reissues, whatever. They still fly out the door. He says they're just as popular as ever.
I think it's brilliant, and I'm really glad that Noel does stuff for it as well, like new stuff. I mean, when his little EP that he released for Record Day last time round, they both know the value of what it means to so many people.
Yeah.
Me and Tajinder were talking about this last week, saying, you know, what I think is the best way to listen to music, Nick, even today, forever. Yeah. It's the best way to listen to anything.
Yeah. I mean, just from getting it out of the sleeve.
Yeah.
You know, just pulling it out, looking at it, putting this thing on. Yeah, I mean, look, and kids today love it. You know, my kids, I got young kids. They buy these things as collectors. They don't play them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They want the vinyl, whoever it is. You know, they want the so and so's vinyl. You know,
yeah.
Vinyls, they want them, but they collect them. They don't play them.
Yeah, I know, and that's so annoying.
I know it's annoying, but at least they're still buying it because it does something. You know, the smell of it, everything. It just does feel the best.
I've got one of my mates, Mark, you know, he lives in Birmingham, and that, you know, when we were talking on the phone, he like show me his collection. I got this, and this. Still got the plastic on it, right? And I'm like, he's bought it, and he's like, oh, this is great. I'm like, yeah, but fucking play it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Whenever me and Senna, whenever we go, oh, actually, get a load of this. You'll love this. So when we went on holiday, Yorkshire way a few weeks back, right? We go around all the charity shops, Nick, to see what we can find. Okay, vinyl.
Yeah.
So went past the Heart Foundation shop, and they had the Beatles For Sale album in the window. Okay,
yeah.
So it's like it was 15 quid, yeah, and I paid 15 quid for it.
Yeah.
So we went back the next day, right? And somebody, obviously, Beatles fans, obviously, you know, gave it to the shop. Yeah, man, I bought about 8 or 9 singles of the Beatles on 45s, right? Mm-hmm. Of like the the early stuff like I Feel Fine and Hard Day's Night and all of this, all of that kind of time period. And it was when I went up to the counters, like it's like finding gold.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
Yeah, just right place at the right time. They wouldn't have been in there long, would they?
Crazy. When me and Susanna were in Norfolk a few weeks back, went into Chroma, went into this one charity shop, was going through the 45s, Rolling Stones, Get Off My Cloud, 99p or whatever it was. I'm like, you know, you're choking because I'm like, it's amazing. Yeah. And if all of that, you know, I absolutely love.
Yeah, I always have a route about, you know, there's not so much gold over here, really.
No.
You know.
Yeah.
Every time I'm back, we always have a mooch about in charity shops, see what you can find.
Oh, they're the best. They're the best. We that's all we end up doing. You know, you know, Susanna will go off looking to see whatever she can find and this, that, and the other. Yeah. I'm obviously rummaging to see what you can find, but charity shops always seem to have them on the floor. At the back, and then like a little basket on the floor. So you're on your hands and knees. You're like, oh, fucking hell. You just put them up on the shelf or something.
Yeah, they should be nowadays. It's so sought after.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, get rid of the pottery and the handbags, put the vinyl up there.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, I love it. I mean, when you go through the albums and that, you know, it's all near enough rubbish, you know, unless you're really lucky. But I love going through the 45s in a minute. So it's amazing what you can find. It really is. Yeah. I love it. I don't think we'll be finding much Oasis in charity shops for a while.
No, it's all being bought up now, isn't it?
Yeah, but I tell you what, there's going to be a time period that comes probably in 40 years. Yeah. It could be pretty amazing for people, you know, our generation. It's going to be amazing. Just, you know, the time, you know, the stuff with my CD collection. I tell you what, whenever the time comes, and that's left. Well, I think I'm thinking I'm going to give it to, like, you know,
I think my kids will do all right out of me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know.
Yeah, but it's a golden period, isn't it? Because then when I was growing up, like the 60s was the golden period, because you know, growing up in the 80s, and it was like people always talked about the 60s, and then you learned about all the 60s music, and now the 90s, it's just gone like to another level. You know, the memorabilia, the people's thoughts on all that. It's even more so the golden period, more than the 60s now to the young kids.
Do you think, Nick, that the 90s were the closest thing to the 60s?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't around in the 80s, but from people I've worked with who were working in the business in the 80s, and the people I worked, you know, kind of bands who I worked with in the 90s that were from the 80s predominantly. Yeah, I mean, the 80s was very decadent as well, very experimental. But the golden era is always talked about as being the 60s. And I think the 90s came close to that because Oasis being one of the reasons, bands like, you know, especially bands like the Stone Roses, how important they were, what they meant to people, how they kind of galvanized kind of the whole kind of feeling of a country and kind of created a movement. And then all the bands that followed, just amazing album after album after album. We could sit here and just reel off so many amazing bands who made not just one great album, but 2, 3, 4 great albums. And could play live, you know, without all the kind of fanfare and production that you see at festivals and gigs now.
Yeah.
You know, they were okay, there was light shows and a bit of production, but it was just the music and the musicianship and the kind of feeling that it gave people who were in the crowd and the energy that created. The gigs, I mean, there's great bands around now, don't get me wrong, amazing bands and, you know, healthy music scene. But because of the last kind of period of vinyl and CDs before the digital age came in, and how records and the kind of introduction of like digital into studios and budgets falling out. So 90s was the last period of bands going into proper studios for 6, 12 weeks, making records together as a group, being developed by A&R people, being kind of helped by labels, being kind of nurtured and kind of mentored through it. That was the last period that kind of really happened, with decent budgets. So you could be a full-time musician. You could spend all your time writing, rehearsing, being in studios. That was the last period you could do that, you know. And I know I have a romantic view of it because I've seen both worlds. I've worked and managed to survive in the business through the way it works now, and I've been in the business how it was then. But to me, it was just magical back then. It was just a different thing. So a lot more fun. You know, and that wasn't just down to big budgets and kind of all the stuff that was going on. And but bands would just immerse themselves in the whole experience for a long period of time. There was no phones around. No one had a phone. No one had a camera in your face. No one had to do social media.
No. And you know what? I've just had something go off in my head talking about. There's a couple of things that I'll say. The one is, for me, Nick, is obviously all through my 20s, I was going out into a big city, right? When I was going into Birmingham and going to like snubs and going to gigs and being, let's say, the new sort of time period for indie where, you know, the Libs and Sabian and the Arctic Monkeys and all of that, and Oasis is still about, you know. So all that's happening, okay, but a lot of people are still influenced by the 1960s. But what I'm going to say is, like, from people being influenced from 1960s of all that indie stuff, I think, like, with my age, I love the 90s. 90s is my favorite time period of music, right?
Yeah.
I think with how people go on about the 60s, that's how much I love the 90s.
Same for me. I was there, so I can experience it. Of course, I'd love to have been around in the 60s, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
For me, I was around in the 90s, and that's kind of like the heyday for me, and the golden period, really. Obviously, the 60s has, for people like myself and you who weren't around in the music scene in the 60s, we can only hear the stories, and it's more magical because we weren't there, and like people talk about it. But yeah, the 90s is my favorite period as well. I mean, because 90s music was born out of the 60s and kind of then and 70s music, but and then, like you say, the bands you described then came out of the 90s, but still heavily influenced by the 60s bands as well.
Totally.
But wouldn't have existed without that whole thing in the 90s going on, and neither would a lot of the indie bands around today. There's so many bands I work with in the studio now, influenced by so much music from the 90s that they don't even know they're influenced by it. You know, it's
yeah. And the other thing that I was just thinking about, Nick, is like, we both know so many people back in the 60s through their management and through the record companies were getting ripped off and not making any money, right? I don't think, I can only say that I don't think it was really happening in the 90s. I think people realized what was happening then and how people were making money.
Yeah, the lawyers were more important. The deals were all a bit more watertight, and the management was a lot more together and professional and seasoned in looking after their clients. I'm sure a lot of money did go missing in the 90s, and I'm sure a lot of money was wasted. Well, I know a lot of money was wasted in the 90s.
Sure.
But generally, you didn't hear as many of those stories. I still do hear them, but kind of, maybe in America for rock bands and things like that, but not I don't hear those stories from 90s kind of indie bands involved in that whole Britpop music, because the labels will run, a lot of those tracks came out on labels like Creation, run by real music people who gave a shit about the musicians.
Yeah.
And not just about furthering their own kind of egos and careers. They just loved music and were surrounded by music people. But also, and the labels were run by proper music people. The A&R guys were proper music people, and I think everyone was tired of all that shit that went on in the 60s and then in the 80s as well. And
Totally. You know what? There's another thing that obviously we could come on to. Probably this, was the last sort of album that came out on Creation, because after that, what was it, Standing on the Shoulders? That was through Big Brother.
Yeah, it was Big Brother. Yeah, there wasn't many records. Yeah, I mean, I did a Teenage Fan Club record, which was one of the last on Creation. And then they just transitioned, because I remember it passed over to Sony, whereas we were making it went from Creation to Sony. Alan came down the studio doing that record as well. But yeah, for Oasis, that was their last Creation.
Yeah,
record. Yeah, massively important label, amazing people at that label, and what a story! What a story!
The people that run that record label, and the man behind it, and his team behind it, and everything. Jesus Christ! You know what? Messy. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was all part of the big pot that was needed to create this massive movement and change people's lives. It
had to be that way. You couldn't picture it any other way. It had to be that way. It had to be, obviously, doing all the drugs and drinking all the booze and getting fucked up and going crazy and spending money and being rock stars.
Yeah.
Even for the fans, Nick, we had to have that.
Yeah.
We had to have it.
Yeah, you can't you can't get away with all that in the industry now. It's very difficult. Bands are only in the studio for a very limited time period now with very low budgets. So all that's where it's gone. And then that was kind of one of the last big budget albums as well. Super big budget albums. From 2001 onwards, those kind of big budget albums, unless you were a legend already, or unless you were like the biggest pop act on the planet, or kind of American R&B act, then those big budgets for bands didn't exist anymore after 2001. I mean, very rarely did an album come in that would take months and months, and there was any budget, and you could have as many reels of tape you wanted, and you could get all these great session players. It was not for bands doing the kind of indie scene. There wasn't many of those happening at all. I think the next one from that came along was the Darkness album, where it was like a proper big budget album.
It was. That first album is amazing.
Yeah, it went on for months and months and months and months. It was like cost £1 million, and it was like, I haven't seen anything like this since Be Here Now. Really, that decade, that much expenditure, that much time spent on things. There was, and I was working all the time in that period, making record after record after record all over the place, but mainly Rockfield. And that was from Be Here Now to that Darkness record. There wasn't anything that matched those two for the kind of budgets and decadence of those two albums. Really, in between, not a lot, really.
Yeah. When coming back, I'm going to come back to Liam a second, right? Yeah. When obviously, you was in the studio at Rockfield, and obviously, they were doing that bit for the program. Yeah. What, did you have a proper conversation with Liam about shit?
Yeah. We had a good chat, because obviously there was, we were all there getting it all set up ready for when he arrived. And then he was when he arrived, he literally was straight in to do it. Let's do it, even though we had 2 days to do it. But afterwards, when all the work was done, when he nailed the takes, and the band had nailed the takes together, it was a good chat, and he was relaxed. He was so happy to be back at Rockfield. He was like, we were refreshing his memory. He was like when Noel came back, he couldn't really remember much. So Liam was down the pub a lot. Noel was so immersed in making What's the Story, they couldn't really remember a lot, and we was like filling all the gaps for them, and they were like, oh shit, yeah, that's right, and we did this, and they remembered a few of the characters from the town. Obviously they remembered all the Rockfields. Like just little funny things, like he was going, oh, I'm terribly sorry when I smashed the gaff up and all that, when we had the big fight and all that, and he's like, I've been worried about that for years. And I said to him, what do you mean, you apologized at the time? Did I? He was like, yeah, you did, and you bought flowers for everybody. And he was like, did I? I was like, yeah, you did. He said, oh, I'll be worried about that. Yeah, sorry. So everything's cool, yeah? And we're like, it was forgotten about, but on the same day, no one gave a shit at all. And obviously it stuck in his mind. But he's like, see, Deb, I bought more flowers. I apologized. And we had a really good chat. about Rockfield days, Be Here Now days, what he's up to now.
Yeah.
Rockfield's up to, what I'm up to, what Rockfield family. It was all great, all of us there, all the Rockfield crew, all the Rockfield family, and him just having a really good chinwag for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's an important time in his life, that period in Rockfield and Mono Valley down the road. So it's where it all started for them, those two studios, really. And lots of great memories, and just talking about stuff and talking about how he makes records now, and what the business is like now, and what life's like for him now. He's very open, and he fills a room. There was a lot of crew around, but when he was in that room, he just fills a room. He's got that aura about him. When he's in a room, you just know.
Oh yeah.
He's just got that thing. He's just got it about him.
I'll tell you something, right? For them, whoever I talk to Oasis about, Nick, and between me and you, the fan that I am, and everything, and obviously with how lucky that you are, when we have this conversation about obviously, that band and the people, for one, the way that Liam and Noel are being brought up is truly, it's so good. They apart from all the shit, forget that, but the way that their mum brought them up was to be the most caring, loving people you can be. Right. And you know what?
Tell that when you first meet them as well. Even when Liam smashed my guitar up on the Be Here Now session. Yeah. What did he do? He got on the phone, rang up my mum, apologized, because my guitar was my mum's given to me.
Oh God.
Straight on the phone, and my mum's like, I don't feel my mum even knew where I was at the time.
Yeah.
I think she'd seen me on the 6 o'clock news coming out of Abbey Road, and not really.
Yeah.
Then next thing you know, Liam's on the phone. Brine have smashed up your guitar straight away.
Oh, definitely. And the other thing I was going to say is when I was going to see Oasis, and the fans were going to see Oasis, when you think about the main attraction for that band, it was the singer. It was the singer, for when he went up to that microphone to sing his brother's songs. His brother was there playing, but I think maybe a lot of people would say it was about him being the front man, singing them songs, because of the power that he had with singing them tunes.
Yeah, he's
the best tunes.
Can't take your eyes off him. He's so, like say, when that moment you're waiting for him to step up to the mic, and not many singers now have that.
No,
which is why there's still box office, and songs, because the people, not many bands can write songs that are going to stand the test of time like those, and have that much effect on a generation as well. And that's obviously down to Noel, but with Liam singing those songs and getting that emotion out of those songs and getting it to translate to people and making a difference to people's lives, it's
I mean, in my eyes and in my life, I think, Noel's the greatest guitar player in my life. To me, when he was playing them tunes, and them chords and them riffs, and how fast they were playing, like, and the sound, everything.
Yeah,
he's the best.
People, actually, he's one of those musicians who's got a great connection between his voice and the guitar.
Yeah,
a lot of people can play Oasis songs, whatever, and but it's the connection he has when he sings and plays those Oasis songs. Noel, it's just a connection that some musicians have, and it's not something that you can teach or you can learn. You just have it, and him playing and singing those songs on an acoustic is amazing. Sitting in the room with him while he's doing it. If someone else who's maybe a much better singer, much better guitarist could do it, just wouldn't have the same emotion or the same feeling or the same effect on you. Something about that man when he sits there with his acoustic guitar. It's like at the shows, when you've got the band and the band sounds amazing, all amazing musicians, and there's all the lights going off and the production, all that stuff, and it's all amazing. And then you take all that back and take it away, and he stands there with an acoustic guitar and a voice. and it's just, you know, magical. It's just nothing else is needed other than that.
When a couple of weeks ago when we went to see him, when he played Little by Little, believe me, it was absolutely mega. And the other thing I'll say is when I was talking to Jeff a while back on the last video, we were talking about Bowie and everything, and when Noel done Valentine's Day for the Bowie like tribute, and you know, me and Jeff were saying that he made it his own. He did make it his own. He absolutely smashed it. He nailed it, because that's how good he is. He's the best.
He is good. Yeah, he's so good.
As much as I was criticizing him earlier, believe me, he is my number one person in music, and this man is the greatest man in my entire life, who I love the most. You know, honestly, he's just the person. Honestly, in the music business, I absolutely love the most, Nick.
Yeah,
you know, and I want him to be the best. I want him to have all the success. I want him to smash it. I want him to sell as many albums as he can.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And he will. And obviously
people like that don't come along very often, do they?
No, they really, really don't. I mean, over the next 10 years or so, with who's around now and what's happening and who's still about, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got guys like Alex Turner, but to me, I think he takes a piss, mate, because he's in I think the Arctic Monkeys could do a lot more than what they've done.
He's very switched on. I had the pleasure of working with those guys, doing all their pre-production for Humbug.
Yeah.
So, you know, fairly early on, but they're big at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
That was in the studio in Norfolk.
Right. Yeah.
And I was so impressed with him, though, as a person, as a musician.
Yeah.
They kind of blew me away as a band. Really, that period of time I spent with them, I just set them up in a circle. They were playing live, just minimal mics, working on those tracks. He really impressed me as a musician, as a person, as a producer, as an engineer. I was like, this guy really switched on, knows exactly what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
So I had a great time with those guys, and I really enjoyed working with Alex.
I think they're the best UK band, even now. I feel, you know, from you know, in fact, I can remember listening. I'm sure I listened to the day that Joe Wiley was talking to Noel about the Arctic Monkeys. And Joe Wiley's like, "Oh yeah, so have you heard of the Arctic Monkeys?" And he's like, "Arctic who? What kind of fucking name's that?" You know, fucking Arctic Monkeys, in his tone of voice. And then she's like, "Yeah, Arctic Monkeys." And he's like, "Well, I ain't having any of that, you know, no. Lo and behold, you know, look what happens. Yeah.
Well, massive.
Yeah.
You know, there's good bands around. There's quite a few good bands that sound kind of got that Oasis sound now.
Yeah.
And like bands are starting to come through the studio that have that kind of verve and kind of baggy Stone Roses thing going on. But in all of those, there's always a hint of Oasis in there as well. Even when the bands are more like the Roses and the Verve. But yeah, lots of bands are coming through, and massive Oasis influence in the music. Loads of good bands around, you know, really good.
Definitely. And I suppose the other thing with that, Nick, they can have the tunes, they can have the sounds, and they can be great musicians. Have they got the personalities?
Well, it's hard now, isn't it? It's hard to see where another Oasis is going to come from. Who are the next ones who are going to absolutely just go out and fucking have it and just...
I know.
and just go to a whole other level.
Yeah.
You know, because there's big bands, Arctic Monkeys, but they're not shifting the kind of units that Oasis were shifting. And who's going to be that band that comes along that are going to be around for years? I mean, there's Coldplay, obviously been around for years, played stadium all around the world and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But who's that young band that are going to come out, absolutely smash it, kind of take on the world and kind of run British guitar music for the next kind of 20 years? It's hard to see where they're going to come from when you're competing with someone like Liam, who's going out there and performing at the level he's at.
Yeah. With this album,
Yeah.
If you can pick one song.
Oh God.
To say that is the one, what you're going to pick?
I don't have a favorite on the album because there's so many good songs on there, isn't there?
Yeah.
They do different things to me at different times when I listen to them. You know what changes all the time.
It's really hard.
It is really hard. I mean, what did you say you thought?
Do you know what? I mean,
I said I've got. Do you know what I mean? Is a massive tune, and
that's what I was going to say.
Great album opener. I have
Yeah.
fond memories of recording that in Abbey Road.
Yeah.
As I do for all of the songs, but
yeah. For walking into Top Man in Norwich, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day when that came out with the video, right? The video on big screens, and everything with that, with the time period, that track, the song. Yeah. It's just totally mega. Liam's looking that jacket and his sunglasses. Yeah. Noel's with his, V-cut guitar.
Yeah, it's so good, isn't it? Yeah, but I like so many tracks on that album. Whether you're going to pick one where Liam's vocal is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
Then the kind of sing along anthemic all around the world. I mean, it's where do you stop?
I know. And to think the man who wrote all them songs, he dishes it. He dishes it and says, "Oh, it's shit and whatever." No, it's not.
Yeah. No.
But obviously the singer loves it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he used to sing it at full volume to us every night in the studio.
Oh, I can believe it.
Yeah. To anyone who came in, he pinned them to the back wall.
Yeah.
PA turned up full, sing it to them. Yeah. It's a great album.
It's a brilliant album. And even their ages, Nick, how old that they were when they were making that was brilliant as well.
Yeah. They made great albums after that as well.
But yeah.
Those first three for me were more complete as albums. Like there's the odd track on some of the later albums. I'm like, maybe not something to that maybe, but it's a complete album. Like it's why it's so hard. When I always get asked, "What's your favorite track?" and "What's the story?" "What's your favorite track?"
Sure. Yeah.
Because I have different memories of the songs of different times in my life, and
to me the best
over the years. It's changed whether it's good,
I mean,
in the dirty shit or whatever. It's kind of
yeah.
One, from week to week, it changes really.
What are the greatest Oasis songs of all time? It changes from day to day.
Yeah.
Deep Down, Don't Look Back in Anger is probably my favorite song of all time.
Yeah.
That's probably the song.
Albums, you just want to listen to the whole album, don't you? You put it on and you need to listen to the whole thing.
Slide Away, Live Forever, Champagne Supernova.
Yeah, they're a body of music as opposed to a collection of songs. And that's something that's missing in a lot of albums today from bands. It's just a load of kind of different productions going on and a collection of songs, and not as much thought into the actual album as a whole, the artwork, how it flows, the kind of thread of the album, the sound of the album. A lot of it's because they're all made in different studios at different times with different producers. That's why I like a lot of the older rock bands that I work with, because they really focus on making an album, a body of work that you want to put on it and just listen to the whole thing in its entirety and make sense as a whole, as opposed to individual sets of songs.
The look, the image, the attitude, where they're from, it all comes in to make something so incredibly mesmerizing. The fashion, even the hair, everything. There's so many things wrapped up into this huge circle of what made them the greatest band in the world.
All the elements coming together, the Brian Cannons, the Creation Records, that Alan McGee, the Brent, Marcus Russell, Owen Morris, all these things, the people around him, Mark Cords, Phil Smith, and the people like that, all those ingredients as well. and to make albums like that possible, which are difficult when there's that much going on around the whole thing.
Yeah, I know.
We've got a man there who's such a prolific songwriter, and then a man there who can just stand in front of a microphone and just blow your mind. So
yeah,
lots of elements to come together at the right time.
Yeah. Did you see Pulper getting back together next year?
I did, saw that. Hopefully gets to some of those shows.
Yeah, I'm going. Definitely. You know what? There's 3 important bands in my life. There's them, there's Blur, and there's Pulp. And that is absolute fact.
Well, just before we go, one Pulp fact is, I don't know if I told you this story before, but during the making of Be Here Now,
right,
I did find Jarvis Cocker down the back of my sofa one morning.
What? That must have been the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah, what's going on there? What's that noise? What the fuck's that? Oh, just Jarvis Cocker down the back of the sofa.
Do you know what? As much as you can go on about them two, to be honest, he is one of the most amazing people in the world.
Yeah, great, lovely man.
Yeah. I can't wait to see that band. I cannot wait to see him.
Brilliant.
They're amazing. Right.
I'll see you there.
Yes. Thank you ever so much.
My pleasure.
You're the best.
Thanks, man. Keep doing what you're doing. Love chatting to you. It's been a pleasure.
I really appreciate your time so much.
Appreciate you asking me. Thanks, man.